guys, this is Katie from Spilling Ink, and today I've got a quick spot author interview to show you. I've got the wonderful Sean Hoade with us today, who's going to give us a little insight into con life, and that is authors at conventions not stealing your money. Also with me today, I've got Jason LaVelle returning.
The authors are stealing the money if necessary. But.
Don't tell them that. And I've got Jason LaVelle with me as my co-host for today. So, Sean, go ahead and take it away. I want to hear from you.
Okay. Well, my first con was the Walker Stalker Con in Atlanta. And that was the very first Walking Dead con. And I went there, but I was like, oh, I want to get into cons. And I just came out with Deadtown Abbey, which has some zombies in it. And it went well, but two really great things happened there. One was I met Dan Farr, who... at that time, only one Salt Lake Comic-Con had occurred or been held, and he personally invited me to come to Salt Lake. And since I live out here in Vegas, I was like, well, okay. And the first year it was like something like I don't know, 20. They were expecting 15,000. I got 25,000. Next year it was up to like 50,000. Then last year it was 75,000. So it's a very exciting con to be a part of, and I work with Dan with some of his production stuff and programming stuff, so that I can get a discount on the table. Now, so it's really great, and that's the big money con for me. But
when you do a table, now do you get a booth or do you get like an artist alley table? And if you've done both, which one do you feel is better for you?
That's a very good question. You should do this. I mean, this interview thing, you're doing well. Anyway, usually it's Artist Alley because the vendor booths are obviously more expensive. But I've gotten vendor booths before when working with cons, and they were fine. But it was like in Artist Alley, it's just so much more personal. Well, because it's the artist, right? And also there aren't a lot of authors at cons usually. There's usually like Kevin J. Anderson, who it's like an entire side of the end of one of the vendor aisles, right? So I mean he's huge. So and then there's me, who is I'm selling my books from the 6 to 8 foot table, and it works just as well. I didn't see any difference in the sales, and I thought the camaraderie in the Artist Alley was really great. But at many of the cons I've been at in the Artist Alley, the visual artists are fantastic. It's all 2D art. You can't sell any like sculptures or anything. But most of the authors, they should really work on their book more before they go out and try to sell it, because not necessarily that their book is bad, but they don't have that elevator pitch. Oh, what's your concept? Okay, well it's like Die Hard meets Mary Poppins, or something, right? It's like you have to have something to be able to get the people over to your table and make them. They're basically buying you because they identify the author with the work, Mm-hmm. So my book, My 12-Inch Penis, will be out next year. And sorry, that was inappropriate. I apologize. Anyway,
that's a sequel to my book.
Yeah. Anyway, but the thing is, I try to talk to almost everyone who comes by an Artist Alley. I don't try to hey, buy my book. Hey, buy my book. Oh, they do that sometimes, just to get a laugh or whatever. But sometimes they do come over and get the book. Once I get them to come over, and then they're like, oh, well, what's this book about? And they point to the Cthulhu book, say Cthulhu Attacks, book 1, book 2 coming out later this year. Anyway, so they say, oh, what's this about? Well, this is the first novel, and it was the first novel to deal plausibly and trying to be, realistic. Cthulhu from Lovecraft actually rose and started claiming the world is his. That's it. Then they either like that idea or they don't. And we talk about the other books, but I always have Know When to Run, which is Zombies in Las Vegas book. And I mean, so I've got that. It's a poker player who, 8 years after the zombie apocalypse, the poker player is making his living by playing games around in little human enclaves in the Southwest, and he gets invited to Las Vegas, the last safe city in America. And if he wins, he gets to stay. If not, something bad happens to him. And so I've had really great experiences at the vendor table and Artist Alley, but especially in Artist Alley because people are surprised when they have someone who's a little bit of a pitch man. My books are also good, but I'm a pitch man.
You make a really good point, and we had mentioned that on a previous episode, that a lot of people when they go to events, they kind of sit back at the table and wait for somebody to come to them. And when you're at a convention, you're not a special little flower that people are coming to see you. They're being bombarded by so many other things. You have to be out there. You have to be like a carnival barker. You have to be talking to people. You have to be, like you said, pitching them. You have to have some kind of reason to draw them to your table. Now,
Yes.
when I go to conventions, I usually pick one day out of the convention to do it. I dress the part. And
Oh, really?
I dress up as one of the characters in my book. So I've got, the gladiator look to me. I've got a sword, and I threaten people at the table with my sword. That becomes one of my pitches, and that's a way for me to get them to the table. But I'm always actively standing up at the table, reaching
Yes.
across, offering free bookmarks, chatting to people about what they want to read, what they do read.
Yeah, and I mean, if I looked like you, but a man version, I would do that too. But really, my much better to get people at the table if I keep my regular clothes on, really. And
Well, you do have the fez, and fez.
I have the fez. But yeah, I never sit down when I'm at the table selling. Never, because someone could come around and they see you stand up, you look like a waterbed salesman. It's like, oh, okay, well, better get in game face on.
Yep.
It's like just and I'm standing up and I'm just chugging along. And luckily, I was a professor, and before that, I was just egomaniac. So I'm used to just speaking, public speaking, or just talking to people. So I have a little bit of an advantage over somebody who just has their book or books. Not like they don't want to sell their book, but not knowing what to do. They kind of twiddling their thumbs or waiting for somebody to come up there. To really sell the books, got to stand up.
Well, and that's the cover sells your book. It does work like that if somebody can see your cover, but you got to remember at a convention, there are so many bright, shiny things in front of these people's faces that even a beautiful cover might not attract somebody if you don't say, hey, over here.
Yeah.
Sean, do you have any advice for authors that might not have been in the game for a long time, or might not have the public speaking advantages that you said that you have there, on how to build that short elevator pitch? How do you condense what might be an extremely complicated thing for you down into something that's 1 or 2 sentences? Do you have any advice on how to build that for someone?
Well, I do. And that's an excellent question. The thing is, when you're going to a con, you need to have books that people at a Comic-Con or a pop culture con would want to buy, would be interested in buying. They're already your target audience. I have the book about zombies in Vegas, I've got Cthulhu, I've got pulp fiction of various kinds, and that's, people really like that. So then I have that literary novel that I wrote, and I put it on the table too, and it always sells out, But if I just had a really complicated, this is a family drama spanning generations about the love of soy, or something. It's like, but it goes in and out of different people's perspective. It's kind of like, okay, Game of Thrones, right? Okay, yeah, no, it's not anything like that. I don't know why I brought that up, but it is like, have you ever watched grass grow? It's like that, only a little slower. And so they aren't bringing. So the first thing is, they're not bringing things to the con that people at a con are going to want to buy. And once they see you and they go, okay, well, they have some legitimate, and self-pub is totally legitimate. But he comes in and say, oh, he's got some legitimate books that I would be interested in. Let's see what else he has, or she has. You see someone dressed up like Xena, right? And she's an author. That just makes it extra cool, right? So I have my little gift of gab, which is nice. But really, it rises and falls on the strength of the books. I see people put out books that are like 120 pages long. And it's like, you want $15 for this, really? So you gotta be realistic. But okay, so that's the first thing, is have something that people want to buy. The second thing is work on your sales pitch. 20 seconds less. How you distill this book. And people who haven't really tried to do this before, they'll say things like, well, it's a story about somebody like discovering the world isn't what he thought it was, which is a great concept, I guess, but it's so vague. It's not going to be right. It's not going to get anybody to really necessarily be interested in it. What I do also is I do bookmarks. Like I said, they're so much more effective than business cards because they have value. They can actually work in books. I tell people it's a universal bookmark and work in almost every book. Mm-hmm. So try to, and then on the bookmark I have my website and my email and everything, where people can read the first 10% of any of my books online for free. You can't have any more than 10%, or else Amazon will cut you off. Mm-hmm. So it's a good hunk of it. And I also, confident in my writing, been at it for a long time. So I offer, when I'm talking to them, if they seem to, like they're interested but they waver, what I do is, I'll tell you what, there's a 100% money back guarantee. If you buy this book and you do not like it, you can send it, you don't even have to send the book back to me. Email me and tell me how you want your refund. And I have gotten many people who bought the book knowing then that they could return it if they wanted. And I said, just give the book to the library or something. You don't have to return the book. You don't have to spend anything else. People feel the confidence with that, and that's a nice. But I don't bring that up until they start wavering. I don't like doing my carnival pitches. Hey, books over here, money back if you don't like it. You know, I mean, there are worse pitches, I suppose. And then I try to promote the authors around me, if there are any, or artists or whatever who are around me, so that they, I mean, I do it because it's a good thing to do, but they also will often reciprocate. It kind of pays it, well, it's not for sideways, I guess, but it is just a great way to go. You get everybody excited around you.
I like that, yeah, and the convention crew, I mean, not just the people that attend it, but the crew themselves, the people who are boothing, the people in Artist Alley, they're all really cool people.
They really are.
Like the before show and after show is probably one of my favorite times, just to hang out with people, talk shop, you know, bullshit about the day.
Right? We can all have our sort of gripes that are really not really gripes because, oh my God, we're writing and making money for it, so what are you complaining about?
For the most part, when I'm working the event, I'm working the event. I don't leave my booth. It's your job, you know, and the minute you walk away, that's a sale. That's another customer. That's, you know, a new reader you just missed.
Yes, and it's especially important in Artist Alley because they're going there. They may grok the idea of Artist Alley versus vendor or whatever, but they know that in Artist Alley, these people who are at the table are the people who created this. And if you're, I'm going to go take an extended smoke break and take a nap in the car or whatever, and like someone else is sitting there, oh, I'm not the artist, I'm just selling these, and you know that the artist will be back there, you'll just come back, or then maybe they don't.
Yeah, so, or they get overwhelmed with whatever else is going on, and they don't come back because they've forgotten.
Yeah, I mean, I know they were all #1 in our own minds, but maybe not with all of the attendees.
So now, when people are walking around in the con and kind of walking by your booths and Artist Alley, how do you engage them in conversation? Obviously, you're a gabby guy. You like to talk, and that's good. You know, it's easy to get along with you. It seems like that way. But how do you start that conversation off without sounding, like you said, like a waterbed salesman?
So let's say you walk by the booth and you have a Xena costume, or not Xena costume. God, that sounds awful. You have your cosplay of a warrior, fantasy warrior woman, right? And yes. I see wearing that, and I see all of the care and detail and effort that you put into this thing, right? So I ask you about it. I'm like, did you do? I mean, usually they have, and so I'll say, hey, wow, you look cool. Are you Xena? And then they'll go, usually because these like 21-year-old girls, they go, Xena what? No, I'm blah from this anime you'll never see, old man. But it brings them over to the table, and even if I'm not going to sell a book to them, I get to talk to them, give them a bookmark maybe. But it's not about selling to every person, but it's about showing real interest in people. Now, if I were at the, the Eureka vacuum convention, which I heard sucks, but anyway, I would, I don't know how I would get all excited about it if I were selling books. Like, oh, you like hoses, don't you? Well, hose like this book. Yeah, I don't know, but it's
that just came out.
So I give them the real. That's how I get people. That's how I get a lot of people over. Like, and no matter what they've done for cosplay, whether it's kind of minimal, or it's. I mean, you've seen these, I'm sure. People dressed as the Predator from the. They're like 8 feet tall, and they've got their feet in some kind of stilts or something.
They get some really intricate costumes, and I do usually run out in front of the table. I'm like, oh, let me get a picture with you. This is an amazing costume. And I'll get a picture of either of them or with them, and then I'll ask if I'm allowed to share it on social media.
That's great.
That's a very good icebreaker.
Yeah, for sure.
I can discuss a little bit more about how you get on panels and what that does for your sales.
Yes.
That's pretty amazing, and that makes you an authority to anybody who might be, sitting in on your panel. You're all of a sudden on a higher tier now because you're not just, some author slinging books out in Artist Alley, which is a good thing. Now you're
nothing wrong with that.
Now you're a professional and you're schooling other people on how it's done.
Indeed, you are. What you're saying is exactly right. Because remember, being on a panel, it kind of goes with that old adage: an expert is anyone from out of town. Mm-hmm. And you come in there, and they don't really know you. They've got your little write up in the program or whatever on the website. But you come in there, and if you can dazzle them on a panel or at a solo talk, which is most of what I do because I'm trying to give back a lot of value to the con. But on panels, you got to start on panels, right? You need to not be a bump on a log. I've seen people doing a panel, and they've either been asked to be on it, but usually they know the person doing it or something that they're interested supposedly and some kind of source on this subject, right? And they'll go there and just sit with their hands kind of folded on their lap or whatever, and then it's like, oh well, Jamie, tell us about yourself. Jamie, I came from Arkansas. Well, not Arkansas, because it's close to the Missouri border. Yeah, that's me. And it's like, oh, that's great. Wow, let me buy whatever you're doing. But you have to study up if it's not something that is absolutely burned into your mind. You're taking a position that people are going to look to you on a panel as having something of value. And I mean, on almost every panel, there's one or two people who are like, I wrote a book. Please, it's 120 pages long. It's based on my grandfather stepping on my foot when I was a child, or whatever. It's just it's cringeworthy, So anyway, so I just say,
I really want to have Sean over for one of our elegant dinner parties at my house. I think he would be a hoot.
Free food? Are you kidding? I'm so there. So yeah, I think we'd have. Yeah, I think we'd have. Okay, we'll talk about this. But anyway, so on the panel though, if you have something relevant to say or that just lean into the microphone and say it. And also lean into the microphone. Don't do one of these where it's far away and you can sort of hear. Put the microphone basically on. Yeah, exactly. Ladies know what I'm talking about. So when you, so that you're really in the. You're really in the in the room and they're really listening to you. I mean, I have my talks and a lot of my not all my talks, but I have many of my talks and many of my panels on my website under videos. Right, they're on YouTube, and you can see all of you out there in Fantasyland. You can see how I do it, and I never try to take over a panel. That's because that's rude and weird. But I do always make sure that we're not having dead zones. Mm-hmm. I'll get in there with something, some observation I've made on this subject or something I've read. And what I do is when I'm on a panel, I remind the attendees exactly where my booth is during the talk. I'll say something like, I was talking to my friend at booth B34 in Artist Alley, and then some of my talks I go, okay, quiz. Whoever answers this correctly gets a copy of this, Penny Dreadful or whatever that I wrote, right? What booth am I in, or what table am I at? And you're B34, and give that to the first person who I noticed said it, and it's like they will come, they will do it. One thing I do is on the back of my business cards, not the bookmarks, because those are front and back, taken up. Actually, my new business cards are too. Come to think of it, I'll have to come with something else. Anyway, I usually, if I have a blank side to something, I put like those folder stickers, like those address label kind of stickers. I put it on there with my my booth, and if there's enough space and I have something that's changing, what my panels are and where they are and when they are. I put that right on the piece of swag that I give them. Dress label kind of stickers. I put it on there with my my booth, and if there's enough space and I have something that's changing, what my panels are and where they are and when they are. I put that right on the piece of swag that I give them. Sometimes I did it before where I tucked them into the book. So if you bought a book, you got obviously they knew where you were because they bought a book. But yeah, I just try to on a panel, even though you're a jerk if you're just going up there and going, well, buy my book and you'll know what it's about, And if you're actually trying to, if they feel like you're treating them like they're really there, which they are, you're treating them like they're really there, they want to continue to be a part of that usually. Or at least many of them do. Enough of them do that you will do very well for giving something freely, which is fun, being on a panel or giving a talk, and then you get sales out of it, and you get kind of you get a Facebook friend request. Oh, who is this person? They live right by where that con was last week, and it's great because then you have obviously a connection with this person, and you can look extra cool, as I do, obviously.
So basically the same principle of when you're at the table, you're calling out to people walking by. When you're in a panel, same thing. Make sure you're being noticed. Speak up.
Yeah.
Engage.
Now, how do you get yourself on a panel? For those of us who haven't been on a panel, how do you go about that?
How do you about getting invited to one?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, the first part. Yeah, okay, well, what you do, I found that most of the cons that I go to have a panel idea submission page. Go to the panel submission forms, everything you can think of that would make an interesting panel, come up with a cool title for it, which I'll explain how to do in a second, and have a description of it that would entice people, right? Wizards and Dynamos, or something like that. The weird science of Nikola Tesla, something like that. So in the academic world, you learn that you always put like your little grabber title, colon, then more of an explanation of it, right? It's like the greatest, colon, Muhammad Ali and how he dealt with racism or whatever, right? So so it gets stuck in people's minds, which is great. And also the people doing the scheduling the panels are looking at you like, oh, well, this person knows how panels attract people. Seriously, it'll attract their attention, like the organizers, but they'll see that you have an eye for attracting people to the panel, and that's really the only thing that matters. It doesn't have to be directly con related. It doesn't have to necessarily be about superheroes or whatever. Like I said, like the Nikola Tesla thing. That's something that I know that con people and nerds in general like, and I'm writing books on it, so I proposed it. So that's what I would say. Just flood. You cannot give them too many panel proposals. I give one con 12. I did 12 panel proposals, and I got like a couple. And some of mine most of mine are solo talks, but I also submitted ideas for panels. And but if you feel like you got the the nads for it, and you want to go and do solo talks, you just present your bona fides. And when I send a separate email with my resume attached, my CV, and show them I've done this lots of times, and also what are my publications. That's how you get panels. The best way, actually, to get panels is to propose them yourself. So the other way to get on panels is to know someone else who's doing a panel. You can research it, or you can look at who did panels last year. That's a really good thing to do on their website. They usually have last year's schedule before the new one goes up, and see, oh, okay, this person had a panel on this. I'm going to contact him or her, and I'm going to try to get on their panel this year, or see if they're doing any that would be relevant to me. So those are the two ways to get on panels, and you get exposure, you get actual sales. Like I said, I always try to get somebody like my assistant or whoever to, because I always go, hey, you want a free pass to the con? Come be my video assistant, And
I was just about to ask that about, do you have somebody that comes with you to record and do?
Yeah, I either it's either the person I'm staying with in that town, or if it's a more local, like Salt Lake or Phoenix or Las Vegas, whatever. I just say, hey, you want to get in this con? We're going to drive over there and do this. And so it's really good. Yeah, you should have a dedicated person. And
now, how long do these panels and talks last? So if you're setting yourself up to be on one of these, obviously you're going to be away from your booth. So how long do they last, and what do you do with your booth while you're away from them?
Aha, okay. If you are a vendor or Artist Alley person, most cons you get another pass for for your minion, who will sit at your table if you have to go to the bathroom or do a talk or whatever, right? You've got a pass for that. That's just disturbing. I don't know what's happening.
But that person,
so you
person, your video, person as well.
You have seen the thread of what I'm going to say. You get one pass for Artist Alley thing, and if you're a guest or a panelist, you get another pass for your, panelist assistant.
Aha.
I always call it, and this is true, my media assistant. If I have only one person who came or that I know there, they stay at the table, and I don't worry about getting the talk recorded. So, but generally, what, free pass? Sure, okay, and I mean, because these passes are worth quite a bit of money, and as long as you're sitting, doing your thing at your table, I mean, you might have, I have some cons where I'm at on 5 panels or doing, 5 talks, whatever, and they're each. I mean, I've never been in one or even heard of one that isn't like this. Okay, they're all, technically speaking, 50 minutes long, 50 minutes long. Someone comes in, and actually the well-run ones are it's almost a no-brainer for the actual panelist. You can sitting with writers, it's a good idea. And they'll come out when you have 5 minutes. They'll come out and hold their hand up and go, 5. Amputees will come at like 4. So it all works out. But and then they do this, like when there's like 30 seconds to wrap it up. And so what I try to do, I mean to stop at like the 40-minute mark and then go, okay, questions, and then do 10 minutes of questions, and then sell any books if people want to buy right there, or talk with writers, aspiring writers and things, and then clear out of there so the other people can get set up at like 5 till 50. So let's say an hour, right, of your time, because you got to go and set up and then come back. So it's basically an hour a pop on those, which is actually the perfect amount of time, because it's not so. Remember this from school? They're like, oh, the perfect class length is this. Like, I think it was 50 minutes actually, because people don't start to lose their. People can keep their concentration and attention. So that's how you get on cons, and that's how long they are. The best way to get on cons is propose cool cons based on stuff that you love. Now, Katie, obviously I've seen your books. There's a million panels you could suggest just based on the stuff that you like to write, not even based on stuff you like to read or be exposed to, just on your writing. Jason, do you write? Are you a writer? I'm so stupid.
I do. Well, this is our first time meeting or chatting, so it's all good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So folks at home, I'm not
horror and paranormal, a little bit of a dystopian, and actually throw in a little bit of a Richard Preston type medical thriller in there as well. So yeah, a lot of stuff I like to dabble in.
To address Jason's earlier question about the elevator pitch for Pathosis, that's one of Jason's books. You could ask somebody who knew that spiders would start the apocalypse. Right there, you've got an instant tagline that would get people going, wait, how did spiders do what now?
Yeah.
What's funny
and when people walk by your, like, I'm Jason, okay? Still bald, worked out, still beard, So someone's walking by Jason's table. Let's say it's like a teenage girl and her parents or something, which is common. When they're walking by the table, he can go to the young lady. He can go, "Hey, do you like spiders?" 9 out of 10 times she's gonna go, or he, it's not to be said. We'll go, no, God, I hate spiders. Me too, because they're gonna cause the apocalypse. And then, right? So you engage them in a way that they're like, you're saying something is relevant to them. Do you like spiders, or are you afraid of spiders? What's nice is if you say something like, "Do you like spiders?" you'll get more visceral reaction, and they'll get, they'll go like, no, or yeah, man. These people we gotta watch out. Yeah, man, I love spiders. And it's like, and then you can go, even though they're going to cause the apocalypse, and then they'll wander over, and then you can go, well, actually, maybe it's because they're going to cause the apocalypse, or something like that. You get them. It sounds really cool, by the way. I got to check that out. But personally, talking about myself, sounds great.
Working.
You know what I keep thinking of is when you're describing coming up to these people, it may sound a little goofy, but it's almost like you're crafting pickup lines for each individual person to pitch your book to, which is, I don't know, it's kind of funny. It's like, what's going to get through to this particular person about this book?
There you go.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what's really nice. Also, you're standing there, right? You're not sitting, right, Katie?
Yep.
What are you doing if you're not looking at people and trying to figure out what might interest them? And it's great because you don't have to do things that are like, it feels like you're going, hey, you're wearing a shirt. I like shirts. People in my books have shirts. Something like that. But something that's more like about the spiders, which I think would be an awesome pitch. Or you can, it also works a lot of the time. Just make eye contact and say, hey, you want to see some cool books? Not, do you want to buy some cool books, or hey, I have cool books for sale. Hey, do you want to see some cool books? Sometimes I'll go, free bookmark, and people come over and get the free bookmark. Go, by the way, that's my website. It has all my books on it.
When I offer them bookmarks,
oh really?
I'm like, hey, do you want a bookmark? And they're like, no. I'm like, but look, it's hot. You need a fan. And they're like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. And then they take the bookmark, and hey, it's got all my info on it.
Yeah, that's nice. Now, see, if I say that to like someone my age and my gender, it's you're hot. You need a fan. If I say it to like a young woman, you're hot, you need a fan, it's going to be like, are you that fan?
Back to the pickup lines.
Yeah, exactly. I'm joking. But it's a great thing. It's like, did you know you can use as fans? Because they're all hot anyway, usually under their, whatever cosplay they have and everything. But just if you say, hey, that's a great costume. It's kind of a running gag between my friends and me who are, not necessarily authors, but they're pop culture enthusiasts, and they like anime and they like video games. Neither of which, I know a little tiny bit about anime, and anything past the N64 for video games is just cool, but I don't understand it or anything, which I don't have to. So I ended up calling everybody Zelda. I said, "Are you Zelda?" It started a couple of times. I did it seriously, and then it was making my friends just cringe because they're like, "That's not Zelda. That blah blah from Full Metal Alchemist or whatever." I'm like, "Oh, okay, I thought it was Zelda." And then they'll maybe laugh. People then they'll come over and go, "No, I'm Link. I'm not Zelda." I'm like, so then you get them to come over. Once they're talking to you, once they're saying, "You know what? I'm going to take a moment out and talk to this person." You've got not necessarily a customer, but you can definitely get someone who's interested in, your book's existence. I've also found that getting people to come over there and go, you can say, "Well, I don't know if you want any books or not, but I have these books, but I do know that you must be interested in X, whatever my panel's on, and my panel's at da-da-da, and if I have it on the back of a card, I give it to them, and if I don't, I just tell them," and then they'll usually they have their little paper schedules with them, like the booklets. They might underline it or something and come to your talk. And I've sold a bunch of books that way because they're like, "Oh, you seemed interesting. Now I found out you are interesting." So they come in because of the I don't know if this is misguided. I hope not. But if the author is interesting, the books will be interesting. Sort of thing. They come over and they look at my books. And it's great because you can integrate everything from going, hey, do you like spiders? And they come over, and that's just one, of your books, right? It's like, oh, you're probably all fed up with spiders in the apocalypse. How about, one where groundhogs fly to the moon or whatever? It's like you can.
How did you know?
How did you know? So it's lots of fun. And if you keep everything integrated like that, it's like this gets people to do this, and not against their will, but it makes them want to do this and then that, and then maybe you sell books. Maybe they just check out your sample and buy your book later. Maybe they don't do any of that, but they tell a friend, "Hey, there's this funny guy over on B34, and he has zombie stuff. You love zombies, right?" As a writer, I support myself on cons. I get royalties for the Cthulhu Attacks book, and its audio, and its ebook, right? Because that's with a larger publisher, and they put it. Now I'm with the micro publisher. Moran Press, and it's a great thing to do. It's a nice launch pad for me at cons, because even if you're with, and Moran Press is fantastic, okay? Even if you're just at a micro press, it's so much better than saying self-pubbed, because over the years, and well, still now, self-pub is oftentimes code for I have no idea what I'm doing. I found CreateSpace on the web, and now and then you look at their book. You look in their books. This is another important thing. Once you get them, you have to keep them by having good product, right? People format their books like they've never looked inside a book before.
That's a pet peeve of
mine. Have you ever seen a book?
That is a huge pet peeve of mine. Yes. It's Or it has
just, you get those
11-point font all the way to the edges of the page. Yeah, no delineation between chapters other than a little number, no titles,
right.
No
and
page numbers, or page numbers in the wrong spot.
Serious grammatical or perspective errors on the first page.
So that's kind of a pet peeve.
Yeah. And also another one that turns people off with self-publishing is where they have a picture on the back looks like it was taken at Olin Mills. Or maybe at Glamour Shots or something, where it's them like if they were a realtor or something. It's not. It's the little square on the back. I'm like that. You just unsold some of your books,
I have that.
You do? Oh no!
Show us.
Hold on.
You need to get.
Yep, I do.
You need to get a cool black and white picture.
There. There's my realtor picture right there, my Glamour Shots. It's probably like a 5-year-old picture too. I wish I looked like that still.
You look just fine, all right? I mean, Jason obviously is a sexy male, but I mean, look at me. If I can sell books and have a cool picture on there, anybody can, But I mean, I go out and I got a picture in front of the Las Vegas sign, and me looking cool. Obviously it's not hurting your sales, Katie, but it's like it's a necessary condition, but it's not sufficient to just this is self-pub, but it's a sign, a lot of times. So I would recommend.
There's also another thing.
But anyway,
I have down at the bottom here too. I have my publishing label. So my Rising Sign Books is my label. So it's the perception of being published by a traditional publisher, even though it's not. It's a small micro.
No matter what the size. Yeah, even if it's like you in your basement just doing your books, you know, just don't call it like, you know, Jason LaVelle Press or something, you know, right? It's like make it like yours, was it Rising Sun?
Rising Sign Books.
Rising Sun. It's cool. That's a cool, you know, name. So get rid of that realtor picture and you know, get a good cool black and white one. And anyway, so when they look at your product, that's another thing. People are going half-cocked, CreateSpace or Lulu or whatever, and they don't have any kind of, when I say marketing plan, I'm not talking about, you know, you're like an airline or something with a $1 billion marketing budget or something. I mean, it's fine. You have $15 or whatever, you know, after you have your books. It's like, it doesn't cost anything to have a social media presence where you're not just saying buy my book, but you're trying to actually have, like, maybe link to a blog, have some content. People are just going off half-cocked with these printed, essentially first drafts of novels, and then they're like, well, I can't believe I didn't sell out, you know? Because you can get one pity sale from a person or a family, but you will not get two. They need to work on their craft a little bit, have beta readers, they need to have a marketing plan, like I said, which is just, what are you going to say to people? You know, like we're talking about. And it's all, I do not use the word synergy because I'm not a corporate drone. But if I did use the word synergy, I would definitely say that if you integrate your different products with one another, with your personality, with your website, and my website, which is seanhoade.com, I try to have, links to my blog, and I try to have entertaining but relevant, interesting content on there. And, you know, I posted to my Facebook, I posted to my official Facebook, I posted to my personal one, Twitter. Now I've gotten into Instagram, which until about 4 days ago I was calling Instantgram because I'm completely out of touch.
You are aging yourself, dude.
Oh, jeez. You are not kidding. What are the kids doing these days with the U-book, you know, or whatever? So, so I try to, you know, right? I try to integrate that. So anything they look at of mine, they're going to see, oh, there's other stuff. And that's interesting. Oh, and he's, you know, funny or like really knowledgeable, or what, I guess there's not mutually exclusive, but, you know, or he goes to this con that I really think is cool, and he's letting me know about other cons, and there's just so much you can do. So what I'm saying is, I make money from Cthulhu.
I don't know, when you say that you get money from Cthulhu, it's like, oh, your Lord and Savior Cthulhu is paying you money.
Oh, I praise him. He sends me evil gold. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Oh, how many? Okay, Hoade, how many souls did you get from me this week? Oh, 17, sir. Good work. You know, but get money from the Cthulhu book, the unauthorized biography of Cthulhu. So yeah, cons are how I make my money.
So now, before we go, how many more conventions are you going to be at this year? And am I going to see you at any of them? I think you said Tucson, right? I
did. Actually, I have it right here on my handy computer. Okay, so for the rest of this year, I've got the 3 in September, I just said, Salt Lake, San Francisco, Rose City in Portland, Austin Wizard World, the Phoenix Fan Fest in October. Katie, have you ever been to that?
No, I've heard about it, and that's one of the ones I'd like to get on at some point.
Yeah, I had a chance to get on with the Phoenix Comic Con, only their tables weren't very expensive, and I was just like, oh, you don't want me as a guest? Well, I'm not going to come. You know, I'm not going to come sell lots of books. So I really showed them. But anyway, so next year I'll go. And then the Tucson Comic Con, I don't have any schedule right now for December, but who knows? There are a lot of cons. Anyway, 2017, I'll just run down real quick if you want to hear it. These are all basically confirmed. Portland Wizard World in February, Cleveland Wizard World in March, St. Louis Wizard World in April, Salt Lake Fan X in April, Phoenix Comic Con in May, Sacramento Wizard World in June, and I have 3 in... I have 2 in August, Tampa Bay Comic Con in August, and also the Orlando Wizard World, which is every other year, so I didn't go to it this year because I didn't have it. Then again, Rose City Comic Con in September, Salt Lake Comic Con in September, Phoenix Fan Fest again in October, and then Tucson again in November. So some of these are repeats, but many of them are you know, first-timers for me. So that's 15 cons next year. I really feel like I have my game on for cons. So I'm trying to really make this... In the absence of having like Random House publish my books and cart me everywhere and pay for the books to be at cons and I get a royalty off them, this is I think I've definitely found a channel to live as a fiction writer making a living as a fiction writer. So it's right. It is the only thing I can do well. Writing books and selling them. Everything else just sucked at, and you have to be there at the job, a grueling job with jerks all day, and so I do not have the most positive, feelings about regular work. So being a writer and then selling the books is ideal for me. So I'm really glad that I found a channel for that.
All right. Well, this has been a really good talk. You've given us lots of good information here on con life.
Great.
And what to expect from the convention. How to handle the conventions. So
yes.
I think our viewers will really take an interest in this as well. And Spilling Ink will be at Palm Springs next week, and so we'll be doing a few live videos there. We'll be doing a few recorded sessions and interviews with the authors we have over there as well, and posting that to the show. But hopefully, Sean, we can catch up with you and see how you're doing as you make it through the convention circuit as well.
Definitely. That sounds great.
In the description below, we'll make sure we've got all the appropriate links so that people can see your website. They can see your YouTube videos to see what your talks and stuff are like as well, Sean.
Well, thanks. If I can do one last kind of summary piece of advice to the authors out there is just to treat people at the con like interesting people, not dollar signs. That would be, and then and then they feel relaxed with you, and they'll look at your stuff.